Good morning, children. I hope you all are fine. Today we are going to see civics. In the last chapter, we have seen about Second World War in history. Today in civics, we are going to discuss about our Indian Constitution. So, first we'll see what is a constitution. Constitution is nothing but basic laws or rules of a country. So each and every country has its own laws and rules, that is own constitution. So in this chapter we are going to see about our Indian Constitution. So how it is framed, why we need a constitution, so what are the fundamental rights and duties of a citizen. Okay, so these are the things will be taught in this chapter. First we'll learn why we need a constitution. All democratic countries have a constitution that governs them. A constitution put down certain principles that forms the basis of any kind of state that we as citizens desire to live in. A constitution tells us the fundamental nature of our society. Our country is usually made up of different communities of people who have different beliefs. It will be helpful in fulfilling the beliefs of different segments of India. So now we'll see why we need a constitution. Every country has its own constitution, right? So is it very important to have our own law and rules for one's country? So all democratic countries, all independent countries have its own constitution. They have certain rules for them. Okay, so a constitution tells us the fundamental nature of a society. So what are the basic things, fundamental things of a society? So only the constitution will say all the basic things for a society. So a country, usually in India also we have many different type of people, those who have different beliefs, they worship different gods, so everything differs, but the law remains same for all. Wherever we are in the country, the law, Indian Constitution has certain laws, it should be followed throughout the country. Okay, so we'll see now making of Indian Constitution. The Constitution of India was framed by a Constituent Assembly set up under the Cabinet Mission Plan 1946. So the Constitution of India, the rules and laws for India, which has been set up in 1946 in a Constituent Assembly. Okay, the Assembly consists of 389 members representing provinces, states, the Chief Commissioner provinces, and the Baloch state. So here for this assembly, for this constitution, 389 members have been participated. They were representing certain provinces from many states, Chief Commissioner provinces, all have participated in this meeting. Okay, assembly. The assembly held its first meeting on December 9th, 1946. Dr. Sachidananda Sinha, the oldest member, was elected as the temporary president of the assembly. So first it was happened in 1946. In that time, Dr. Sachidananda Sinha, he is selected as the president of the temporary president of the assembly. While the work is in progress, Dr. Sachidananda Sinha died. Dr. Rajendra Prasad was elected as the president of the assembly. Similarly, both H.C. Mukherjee and V.T. Krishnamachari were elected as the vice presidents of the assembly. But during this work was in progress, this person, Dr. Sachidananda, he passed away. He died. So now next, Rajendra Prasad, who is also considered to be the freedom fighter of India, he was elected as the president of the assembly. At the same time, Mukherjee and Krishnamachari, they were elected as vice presidents. Okay. This assembly met for 11 sections along with 160 days of meeting. So it hasn't happened for 166 days of meetings. During the discussion, 2,473 amendments were presented. Some of them were accepted. So already they had certain laws, right? So during this discussion, nearly 2,473 amendments, which means many changes, modification in the law has been presented, and a few things were accepted. The assembly worked through various committees, and the draft of the constitution was prepared by the drafting committee under the chairmanship of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. He is recognized as the father of Indian Constitution. So the assembly worked under many committees, and the fair copy has been derived by the chairmanship, derived by the chairman. who's called the father of Indian Constitution, is none other than Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. So he is only considered to be the father of Indian Constitution. Right, so he has framed own laws and he has modified many things in the Indian Constitution. Now we'll see the features of Indian Constitution. So what are the main important things of Indian Constitution? It is the lengthiest of all written constitution in the world. So we have many countries in the world who have their own constitution, but Indian Constitution only has a very lengthiest constitution of the world. It has borrowed of its provisions from the constitution of various countries. So it has borrowed, because it was under the rule of Britishers also, no? So it has borrowed many constitutions of various countries also. It has taken many points from other countries also. It is partly rigid and partly flexible. So some orders, some laws were very strict, okay, and some of them were flexible, okay, this or that. So it's depend upon the situation. It establishes a federal system of government. So this only started the federal system. It means a group of states joined together to make a group. Okay, so this system has been formed in that Indian Constitution during that time only. It established the parliamentary system not only at the center but also in states. So parliamentary system has been started not only for the central government, for all the states. It makes India as a secular state. So secular means there is no partiality in religion, caste, nothing. So they can follow whatever they want. They can follow whatever religion they want to follow. So this is called secularism. So whatever we need, we can follow. If you want to become a Christian, we can follow Christianity. If you want to convert from Hindu to Christianity, we can do it. So that's our wish. Okay. It provides an independent judiciary. So according to judiciary also, whoever needs judgment, need justice, they can fight for it. So independent judiciary also started. It introduces universal adult franchise and accords a right to vote to all citizens above 18 years of age without any discrimination. So this only say about the right to vote. So whoever attained the age of 18, no difference in that, whatever caste they belong, whatever religion they belong, whether they are a boy or a girl, rich or poor, educated or uneducated, nothing is seen there. Only the age right to vote is right. They must have attained the age of 18. It provides single citizenship. So a person should have only one citizenship. It makes special provisions for minorities, scheduled caste, scheduled tribes. So in those period and all, no, some many scheduled caste were there. So some poor people, they were considered very low. Okay, they were not admitted in the temple. They were not admitted to walk in the streets where other people, high people reside. So all many strict laws were followed. But this constitution only, they have provide many provisions. Okay, special allotment for all these minority caste. Next we are going to see about the citizenship. The word citizen is derived from the Latin word civis. It means resident of a city or a state. So citizen is derived from the Latin word civis. It means a resident of a city, okay, or a state. The Constitution of India provides a single and uniform citizenship for the whole of India. So for the whole of India, we have only single citizenship only. So this Constitution only provides all this. Now we'll see how to acquire the citizenship, how to acquire it. Okay, acquisition of citizenship. So we have 5 points for that. First, by birth. So all persons born in India on or after January 26, 1950 are treated as citizens by birth. So whoever born on January 26th, 1950 or after 1950, okay, who are born in India are considered to be the citizens of India by birth. We are also citizens of India, right? Because we are born here after the independence. By descent, a person born outside India on or after 26 January 1950 shall be a citizen of India by descent if his father is a citizen of India at the time of his birth. So a person who has come by descent, okay, his father or mother, if he belongs to India, okay, at this time, at this baby's birth time. Okay, for example, if I born during this time, if I born during 1950 January 26th, okay, my father belongs to India during he is a citizen of India, right? So by descent I am getting the same thing. Okay, by registration, a person can acquire citizenship of India by registration with appropriate authority. So if I am residing in some other countries also, during British rule and all, no, many people they have married here, Indian women, Indian men. Okay, many men and women from British side, British English people, they have come here, they occupied the places and they started marrying here also. So they got by registration. So by registering, okay, hereafter I will be the citizen of India. By registration, they are acquiring that citizenship. By naturalization, a foreigner can acquire Indian citizenship on application of naturalization to the government of India. So a foreigner also can apply for the citizenship. Okay, if I want to become an Indian, he can do it. By incorporation of territory, in the event of a certain territory being added to the territory of India, the government of India shall specify the persons of that territory who shall be citizen of India. So if a territory which has been linked with India, so some states, no, it's little the border will be little away from our country, but once it's linked, once it is connected, those person is considered to be the persons who are living in that state or that is territory will be considered as the citizens of India. Now we'll see the laws of citizenship. It can be voluntarily renounced by a citizen. So if I don't want to be a citizen of India, I can directly, voluntarily, I can give a notice. Okay, hereafter I doesn't want to be a citizen of India. If I give it in a written manner, that his citizenship will be cancelled. It can be terminated if a person acquires the citizenship of some other country. So if a person acquires some other country citizenship, if he acquires the citizenship of America, Europe, somewhere, so if he acquires that citizenship, this citizenship will be cancelled automatically. Already we see, no, only single citizenship is accepted in our Indian constitution, so it will be cancelled. The central government can deprive a naturalized citizen if it is satisfied that the citizenship was acquired by fraud, false representation, concealment of immaterial facts, or indulgence in trade with enemy countries, or if the person has sentenced in imprisonment for period of 2 years. So if a government has come to know about a person that he has acquired the citizenship by fraud, by doing some improper things, if you have acquired the citizenship, when the government comes to know about this, they can cancel it. Okay, or when they indulge in trade, when they trade with some other country, some other enemy country, they can cancel it. Or if a person has been in the prison for 2 years, that time also cancelled, that time also that citizenship will be cancelled. Now we'll see about the fundamental rights, our basic rights. Fundamental is nothing but basic. So we'll see what are the basic rights we have. Right to equality, the first point, equality before law. So before law, everyone is equal, all are equal in the eyes of law. Prohibition of discrimination on grounds of religion, race, caste, sex and place of birth. So what religion we belong, what race we belong, what caste we belong, what sex, whether a man or a woman, no issues, where the place we born. So discrimination of all these things. Okay, wherever we reside, wherever we live, wherever we born, that is not an issue. We are the citizens of India, so that is called equality right. Equality of opportunities, matters of public employment. So employment also, so whoever has a qualification will be accepted for that job. Okay, employment. Abolition of untouchability. In those days, untouchability, the poor people, the low caste people, they were not allowed in the state. As I told you already, they were not allowed. They were treated in a very poor manner. Okay, so they are not supposed to wear slippers also. Okay, so these are called very bad things that the Dalit and all, know. They have heard about this term, children. So Dalit people, they were considered very poor. Okay, low caste people. So untouchability has been prohibited. Abolished. Abolition of titles except military and academic. So only the academic wise and the military people has to get the titles. some honorable this and that, very many titles we are using, no, for our ministers also we have many titles. So that is all abolished. Next we see right to freedom. So what are the freedom we have? Freedom of speech and expression, assembly, association, movement, residence and profession. So whatever we need we can speak. Profession, whatever we like we can choose it as our profession. Whatever we need to study we can choose it as our education, our field. Okay, residence. So these are the freedom of right to freedom. Protection and respect and conviction of offences. Protection, so when someone convict us as a convictor or as a that time we can appeal for it. Okay, we can defend. Okay, me not the person who did this. So if you have right thing on us, we have justice, we want justice, we can fight for it. Protection of life and personal liberty. So we can do whatever we need to safeguard ourselves. Okay, protection of life and personal liberty. For personal freedom we have rights. Right to elementary education. So all the children must be educated. Elementary education is must. Next, right against exploitation. Prohibition of traffic in human beings and forced labor. So forced labor were also practiced in that period, right? So they were not given enough money or as wages, but they were treated as slaves. So forced labor has been prohibited, and prohibited of employment of children in factories. So those children under age of 14 should not work in any other factory or company. Okay, they have to go to school only. So all these amendments were started. Right to religion. So we can worship whatever religion we want, whatever God we need, whatever God we like. Okay, so we can follow any religion. So right to religion. Okay. Cultural and educational rights. Protection of language, script and culture of minorities. Right of minority to establish the administer educational institutions. So we can protection of language, we can protect our own language. Okay, we can protect and improve our language skills, language and all. Education rights also, we can choose whatever group we like. So these are the rights of education. Right to constitutional remedies. It allows the individuals to seek redressal for the violation of their fundamental rights. So we can seek for our own judgment, for our own justice. So this is called right to constitutional remedies. Next we'll see about the right to constitutional remedies. A writ is an order or command issued by a court in writing under its seal. It is in the nature of a command of prohibition from performing certain acts that are specified in the orders of the court. Both the Supreme Court and the High Courts are empowered to issue 5 kinds of writs of habeas corpus, mandamus, prohibition, quo warranto and certiorari. So the Supreme Court and the High Court has empowered 5 kinds of writs. Okay, we'll see habeas corpus. This this safeguards people from illegal arrest. So if a political person or if the policeman has a self vengeance in somebody, they'll usually go and arrest it. But this method only, habeas corpus only, safeguards people from illegal arrest. So no one can be arrested illegally, and they have legal things with them. They can have the rights, but they are not proving anything, not producing anything, means they are not allowed to arrest the person. Mandamus, it protects a petitioner who requires legal help to get his work done by the respective public authorities. So a petitioner who it protects a petitioner who gets a legal help, who refers for the legal help. Prohibition, it prohibits a subordinate court from acting beyond its jurisdiction. So this one, this prohibits a court from acting. So a court, as if a high court means it adds certain rules and certain limits. So it abides, it prohibits a court to act according to the law only. So it must follow its limits. Okay, capacity limits, everything must be followed. So beyond its jurisdiction, justice, nothing should be followed. So this will helpful for them. certiorari. It quashes an order issued by a subordinate court by overstepping its jurisdiction. They can issue an order to the subordinate by the subordinate court by overstepping its jurisdictions to take certain steps in some other matter. They can appeal for the other courts also to look into this matter deeply. Next, we'll see about the differences between fundamental rights and directive principles of state policy. Fundamental rights. It was derived from the Constitution of the USA. So in this fundamental rights, what are the basic rights we follow is it is derived from the Constitution of United States. Directive principles of state policy, it was drawn from the model of the Constitution of Ireland. So in this model, this Ireland Constitution is followed. Even the government cannot take away or abridge these rights. So in this fundamental rights, the government also cannot do any changes or modification. But here in this directive principles, there are more instruction. They are mere instructions to the government. So, but they are giving only suggestions to the government. This can be followed, but out of their choice only they can do all this. These are enforceable by the court of law. These are enforceable by the court of law. This must be followed. But here, these are not enforceable in any court. They have legal sanctions. In fundamental rights, we have to follow only legal sanctions. But in directive principles, we have moral and political sanctions. So morality is basis. These rights strengthen political democracy in the country. So fundamental rights will strengthen our political democracy. But this will strengthen our economic and social democracy. These are natural rights. These lead to protect human rights. So fundamental rights are natural rights, basic rights. But this lead to protect human rights. Okay, each human wants to become whatever they like. So it protects human rights. Okay. Now we'll see the list of fundamental duties. As a citizen, we have certain duties and responsibilities, right? Though you are a children, now 10th standard means you will be 14 or 15 age only, so but we can't think I am just 15, I am just 14, so I don't have any responsibility or any duties of a country, because we may think when once we reach the age of 18 only we have certain duties and all. But no, each and every citizen has their own responsibility and own duties. We'll see about the fundamental duties. To abide by the Constitution and respect its ideals and institutions, the national flag and the national anthem. So we have to respect the national flag and the national anthem. Though we are a kid or a grown-up man, we have to respect this. Okay. To cherish and follow the noble ideals which inspired the national struggle for freedom. So we have to follow the noble ideals. For a country, we have certain ideals, right? Certain things to follow, which inspired the national struggle. So many things are inspired for the national struggle. Many things are included in the national struggle, okay, for our freedom. So we have to follow all those noble ideals to protect the sovereignty, unity and integrity of India. So as a citizen, as a students also, we have the right to protect the unity. So when we say pledge also, we used to say all Indians are my brothers and sisters. So we must consider everyone as a brothers and sisters, as a relative. So unity must be maintained, integrity of India. Okay, defend the country and render national services when called upon to do so. So when there is any emergency to defend some other country also, we must be ready for that. To value and preserve the rich heritage of our culture. So our culture has many riches, right? So we have to protect all that rich heritages. To protect and improve the natural environment, including forest, lake, rivers and wildlife, and have compassion for living creatures. So it is our duty to protect the natural environment, whatever it is, river, lake, sea. So but now we are spoiling all those things, right? So now we must consider, am I following my duties? Okay, following my duties as a citizen of India. So we must consider all this. We must question ourselves. So we must have a compassion for living creatures, whether it is 5 cents or 1 cent creature also, we have to considerate about. We have to show some compassion for it. To develop scientific temper, humanism, and the spirit of inquiry and reform. So we have to develop the scientific temper, humanism. Humanity must be followed, and reformation. So we have to create new things. Reformation. If something is not good, if something wants to be developed, we have to take certain steps for that. To safeguard public property and to abjure violence. So we have to safeguard our public property. Public property in the sense police station, hospital, bus stand, buses, theaters. So these are public properties. All are using, right? Schools, colleges. So we must protect all these things. So these are our fundamental duties. Next we'll see about the amendment of the Constitution. The term amendments denotes change, improvement and modification. So amendment is nothing but changes in our law, improvement and modification. Usually this term is associated with one or more changes more in the constitution of a country. So usually this term is always linked with one or more changes which is happening in the constitution of the country. Types of amendments. Amendment by simple majority of the parliament. So simple majority which is made by the parliament, this is one. And amendment of special majority of the parliament. So simple one thing and special. Amendment by special majority of the parliament and the ratification of half of the state legislature. Okay, once they get the special permission from the state governments, they are allowed to make changes. So finally we are going to just do a recap. So the Constitution of India was framed in 1946 by the Constituent Assembly set up under the Cabinet Mission. The preamble of a constitution is sovereignty, socialist, secular and democratic republic. The word citizen is derived from the Latin term civis, which means resident of a country, resident of a city or a state. So in this chapter we have seen all these children about our Indian Constitution, the features of our Indian Constitution, our fundamental rights and duties, about our amendment of the Constitution. So just go through this video and audio, you'll get some notes. Just go through all that. I hope you all have understand this. Thank you children.